The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
Hello, and welcome to the Hoop Ball DFS Today podcast. I am your host, Mike Patra, and I'm here to run solo, flying solo, for this nice little Wednesday, September 30th card. We have a showdown slate. We have the start of the NBA Finals, Lakers versus Heat. Some pretty extraordinary stuff, seeing that the Heat, kind of scratched and clawed their way into this spot. And if any team has momentum on their side, it's this team. They're playing with passion. They're playing with fire. And then you have your favorites in LA. Maybe not the everybody's favorites in LA. Favorites, I guess, at the beginning of the year to be where they are. But the Lakers, none other. They are absolutely fantastic. We know that their team has been stellar defensively all season, and then just being propelled by LeBron James playing out of his mind for his age in the playoffs, and Anthony Davis hitting big shots when need be. So really excited about this game. Really excited to jump into things, and it'll be relatively, pretty short and nice little quick hitter that we're gonna have going. Just like some of these other showdown solo slates, nothing to really jump into majorly. Just going over some of the guys I'll be looking at in my captain spot and some of the guys that I'll be keeping my player pool. But obviously, like I say on all showdown slates, maybe temper expectations, maybe temper your bankroll. We have some other sports going on right now. It's just these showdown slates. The odds of splitting a pot with somebody is just drastically increased. Lineup differentiation is hard to come by. Needless to say. So before we jump into anything, just want to give another quick shout out to our presenting sponsor, and that is ExpressVPN. You guys heard me talk about all the shows that are available, whether it's Doctor Who. Another one I've been watching has been MasterChef Australia. I was telling Brett that. But if you're wondering what ExpressVPN is, it just hides your IP address. And you're asking me what that does. And well, you can not only hide it, you can change it. And what that means is I can change mine to Australia, and then I can go watch MasterChef Australia on Netflix. And it's not just Netflix. You can use it with Hulu, BBC, iPlayer, YouTube, you name it. And it's not just Australia. It's over 100 different countries. So you can get Doctor Who if you're watching the UK Netflix. And for me, I can get my, my MasterChef on in Australia and, enjoy it. You can get, if you want to switch it to, Japan, you can get Netflix. You can get some of that good old anime. You can just switch it to just about anything, and you can even use it for games. So there's a ton of VPNs out there, but the difference between ExpressVPN and those other VPNs is that you can stream ridiculously fast, no buffering, no lag, and you can do it in HD. It's compatible on all your devices, guys. So go check them out, ExpressVPN. And then obviously, that we're already touting them. It is MyBookie, and if you were able to jump on and sign up and use that promo code HoopBall last week, you probably cashed out pretty drastically over the weekend because the amount of free money that MyBookie was just throwing and giving to us was absurd. So if you haven't, go sign up, guys. Use the promo code HoopBall, the best bookie site out there, the only one that we use over here at HoopBall. So absolutely fantastic stuff. So I'm going to just jump right into this. Like I said, expecting it to be a pretty short show. But right now we have the line coming in for this one is going to be 217.5 game total. Lakers being favored by 4.5 points in this one. I'm expecting some pretty interesting things. I'm going to start off with this Miami team. That last game, that last series, played out exactly how I wanted to. Bam absolutely crushed in that last one. He's the most expensive guy that's available right now for Miami in the captain spot. He's coming in at 15.9, and his normal price is about 10.6 at that utility spot. Now, I do have some interest in Bam. This is a much tougher matchup than it is said against the Celtics that he just had. I do have some interest. But I'm not going to be overweight. I actually expect myself to be a little bit underweight. Going against these 7-footers, we've seen them slow down Jokic ever so slightly. It's not the same exact matchup. He was also dealing with that little bit of a wrist injury towards the end of the series. There's a few things that are bothering him. And then you're just talking about him being drastically more expensive than Jimmy Butler now when, I liked it when they were relatively the same price. But I expect Butler to be a little bit more involved in this series as opposed to the last one, where he had his big moments and his big times, and he stepped it up and turned it on in the fourth quarter several times. But for the most part, he was very, very passive at allowing his teammates to kind of take over. And that pretty much transitions right into Butler. And yes, I do have some interest in Jimmy Butler. 9,200 as the utility, 13.8. I don't know if he makes a ton of sense if I'm going to be using him in my captain spot, but I think he's an absolutely fantastic play. Um, I'll never talk bad about Jimmy Butler. And, just the amount, I don't think he necessarily needs to be sit there glued to LeBron James, the amount of other defensive options that they have that they could throw at him, whether it's Crowder and Iguodala. But all three of these guys will probably take a fair share during this finals guarding LeBron. But he's also done fairly well in this matchup throughout the series. He's averaging about 38 DK points in 37 minutes across two different games. So, expect probably about a 35, 40-point floor from Jimmy and 35 probably in a bad game. But we know he has that 50-point upside if the Heat can, end up getting extra buckets on him. I'm not expecting high-scoring games. But Jimmy Butler we've seen the rebounding, we've seen the assist, and we know the defensive numbers. There's so many ways he can just get it done. He can come out here and drop a 26, 9, and 8 game. It wouldn't shock the least of us. But my favorite option on this team right now is actually going to be Goran Dragic. He's the guy that I'm probably be looking at in my captain spot. I just think that he's been getting overlooked throughout that whole Boston series. And it was a little bit of a tougher matchup. Now he gets the path cleared. He gets the Lakers, who have been just terrible against opposing point guards for pretty much the entire season. He's done fairly well against them in the one game that he's played. He dropped over 35 DK points. And like I said, I expect, on a night where there's going to be a lot of people owning the same guys, I expect Goran Dragic to maybe slide under the radar a little bit, especially with how well Tyler Hero's been playing. They're very similarly priced. And then you look in the captain spot, Jimmy Butler is only $900 more. Most people would say, well, then why don't I just play Butler? And that makes sense, but we're trying to be contrarian on these kinds of things, especially if you're trying to play in tournaments and GPPs. And I think Goran Dragic is probably going to, like I said, round out to be my favorite option on Miami. And I don't mind looking at Tyler Hero. I think that he's just been balling out. There's no doubt about it. This kid's an absolute stud, and he's going to get it done. But the price tag's getting up there. And they do have, the Lakers, have very good perimeter defenders just as well as they do have 7-footers. So, this team is excellent defensively. He's going to get his buckets, don't get me wrong. But right now, I think I want to get my Goran Dragic exposure. I might get some Jimmy Butler exposure. And then I may even shift down to some Jay Crowder and possibly some Iguodala if I need the value. And outside of that, I think I want to spend the rest of it on Lakers guys. I mean, it's tough right now because when you look at that 9K, for a guy like Tyler Hero, 8K, it immediately kind of eliminates some of these other guys that we're going to be looking at. I want to get LeBron. I want to get Davis. I want to try to get both those guys. I want to get Dragic, and I want to get Jimmy Butler and maybe one other stud. And then after that, money's pretty much gone. So if you can afford him, I don't mind him, but I'm not going to go out of my way to make a must play like I did during that Boston series. And I kind of just said my sentiments on Jay Crowder as well. I just think that he's going to have to play some decent minutes in this series. It's going to be struggling against AD. That's going to be a matchup for AD to take advantage of. But bottom line, it was the same thing against, in the other series where we thought that maybe they would go a little bit bigger and Olynyk would get minutes. They don't have no problem playing small. We've seen them do it. And I don't think Miami's all of a sudden going to change their tune after playing several series going with pretty much some small ball action. If you wanted to take the shot on Kelly Olynyk, shot in the dark, dart throw kind of play, I could see that. He did average 25 minutes against the Lakers in 2 games this season. But he's pretty much almost been phased out of nothing more than 10 to 15 minutes in that Boston series. But with the 7-footers, I could see it there. But he'd be maybe a 1 out of every 6 or 7 lineups if you're mass multi-entering kind of thing. I'm not going to go out of my way to load up on him. He's still a very, very volatile play. And then we will transition and we will slide right over to the Lake Show. I said it right off the rip, LeBron James, Anthony Davis. It's just, how do you not want to play these guys? LeBron James just seems so locked in, so ready for this moment, ready to take over and just kind of get this. He wants to go home, bottom line. I think everybody does at this point. And LeBron just wants to get this over with. He wants to just use this to cement his legacy even more so. So 13-2 in the utility spot. Yeah, I really don't care about the price tag at this point. This dude is just so locked in that I'm going to have some shares. Davis at 12, same thing. I want some shares to Davis. I want to play both these guys. And I think, with Bam being 1,400 away from Davis, I think that's cheap enough in the utility spot where people might just gravitate and try to get Hero in there as well. And I guess that's what the game script is going to come down to. If you think that the Heat run away with this one, and not necessarily run away, but if they win by 8, you might want a couple more Heat bodies in there, or vice versa if you think the Lakers are going to take this one. So, and those obviously, you got to have at least one of those guys. I think it's just about every lineup. And then everybody after that, looking at Rajon Rondo, minutes started getting limited a little bit towards the end of that Denver series. 13 minutes in that last game, 22 minutes of the game prior. With the usage and the minutes going down, it's tough to say like you have to play him now. He's definitely a viable option. Just we know his tournament upside. And bottom line, if Rondo has a good game and you don't have Rondo on a slate like this, it's going to be tough to win money. So I will play him. It's a tough matchup. Miami's actually been pretty good against point guards, but I will definitely have some shares. I'll probably have him in about 40% of my lineups, 30%. Dwight Howard, 5K. Pretty much that free square that we were talking about in the last one. Played 35 minutes in Denver. I don't know if they're going to, play him 35 minutes again. I'm not really anticipating that. If they do, fantastic. But regardless, I'm going to have some shares with Dwight. He should continue to start, whether it's, 15, 20, 25. He's still cheap enough, and he's still got plenty of upside, I think, just with his rebounding alone and his couple block shots that he can get us. Where on this one game, 2-team slate, I have to have some interest. It's the guys that I'm going to be avoiding are going to be your Caldwell Popes, your Danny Greens. I just never want to play with these guys. And yes, they're the tournament type guys that, they could easily take this down for you. But for me, I'm looking to come out of this slate profitable. To take down one of these things, they're great. I've won a showdown slate here and there, but I'm still splitting it and chopping it up 137 different ways. So as long as I can come out of here profitable, I'm perfectly good with that. And yes, one of these guards are going to be probably your recipe to success, and it might even be Caruso, to be honest. He's been playing very well with LeBron, and we kind of seen his minutes going up towards the end of it. So if there's any one of those guys I probably prefer to play, it would be Caruso over Danny Green and Caldwell Pope. But I get the reasoning on why, and I'm not going to just immediately cross them off. Just not guys that I'm going to be overly attracted to. And I'm not touching Kyle Kuzma. He's just one of those guys I just don't play. I don't see the upside. There's not enough usage for him to go around unless something happens to Anthony Davis. And I didn't mention at the top he was dealing with that ankle soreness, but he's good to go, not even being listed on the injury report at the moment. So that's all we have. That's all I have. Just a quick hitter, quick little breakdown, nice little early look, first take. Before you guys jump into it. So, as always, you can find me on Twitter at Mike Apotria, MikeApotria. If you could give a quick follow, I'd really appreciate it. Be able to answer any of your questions. If you want, shoot me a message, shoot me a little tweet. Always out there trying to help out my fellow DFS degenerates, whatever I could. Or if you just want to talk about some good things like some barbecue or some hoops, I'm always game for that as well. And then if you want to give us a nice little follow or a rate review, little thumbs up over on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbean, iHeartRadio, wherever you might be listening to. It means a lot to us, guys. Allows us to keep producing this fantastic content for you in front of the paywall. It allows us to get better and, show the sponsors that we know what we're doing at least a little bit around here. And that is it. So, I appreciate everybody for listening. Thank you for everybody over here at DFS Today. We will be back. Providing you another show relatively shortly. You just got to see when DK releases the slate. So if you guys do not see a show, it's because DK does not release the slate until the morning of the day, and we are a night before podcast. But that's all. Thank you guys. Take care. Let's go take down some GPPs.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.